Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. How to treat black magic, chapter 6. Chapter 6 and part 5. We're gonna do part E. Part 5, part E, chapter 6. How to treat black magic. Let's continue. Nahmadun salli ala rasulihil kareem amma ba'd. Fawz billahi minash shaitanir Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In most cases, the patient does not become epileptic, but their limbs become numb, their chest tightens, they have headache or a bad stomachache, especially if they happen to have drunk object of black magic fluid, for instance, mixed with water or a drink in general. The patient may also vomit. If they feel pain in their stomach and wishes to vomit, then what we have to do, recite some of the following verses of the Quran on some water and tell them to drink it in front of you. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى أَنْ أَلْقِ عَصَاكَ, that you have to recite it. Suratul Araf, Surah number 7, ayah number 117 to 122. وَأَوْحَيْنَا till Rabbi Musa wa Harun. And then what else you have to recite? Surah Yunus, ayah number 81 and 82, Surah number 10. It starts with Falamma al-Qaw. And also Surah Taha, ayah number 69, Surah number 20, Wa alqi ma fi yaminika. You have to recite ayah number 69. And also Ayatul Kursi. If they vomit yellow, red, or black substance, then the spell has been invalidated. And all praises due to Allah. Alhamdulillah. Otherwise, advise them to drink from the water for 3 weeks or more until the black magic has been neutralized. The patient's spouse must not learn about their treatment because they may go to the sorcerer again and request another spell. For example, the treatment of black magic for a love, a man guided by his wife. A patient informed me that he was leading a normal marital life until few months back when he began to feel again strange. He said, I cannot stop thinking about my wife when I am at work, when I am back home from work. I start looking at her. If I have guests, I would leave them alone from time to time in order to see her. I feel extremely jealous for her. I keep a lot of company with her and seems as if she were guiding me. When she goes to kitchen, I follow her. When she goes to bedroom, I follow her. When she tidies the house, I follow her. I do not know what happened to me. If she requests something from me, I would fulfill it straight away. So most of the listener must be thinking, oh, this happens, this happens. Especially some women, they started thinking about somebody else, isn't it? So Allah knows who is being bewitched and who is doing what. I recited some verses of the Quran on some water and ordered him to drink and wash from it for 3 weeks and to visit me immediately after this period. Without his wife's knowledge, after 3 weeks, he came and informed me that things had gone back to normal, but not completely. So I repeated the treatment and eventually he recovered. So black magic for taqiyil, false appearance of objects. You might have heard some people say, I see this and that, false appearance of object. So again, you have to recite here when we see in Surah number 7 and ayah number 117 to 122, how وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى أَنْ أَلْقِ أَسَاتِ, how Musa al-Islam threw the asa and how later what happens. He said, you throw when they charm people's eyes and overawed them, they produce a splendid black magic. And then Kaz staff, how it changes and eats up rest of the magicians what they were doing. And also we see Qalu ya Musa imma an tulqiya. And here also the ayah of the Quran, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Musa al-Islam in Surah Taha, ayah number 65 and 66, how the things changes. So symptoms you have to remember, a fixed object would appear to be mobile. Object which is fixed which try to be mobile, while a mobile object would appear to be fixed to the viewer. A small object would appear large, while a large object would appear small to the viewer. The false appearance of the objects under the effect of the magic of Pharaoh, sorcerer ropes and rods appears to viewers are real snakes. How is this achieved? A magician would show the viewers a familiar object. Then with an incantation and the support of some demons, the object would appear in form other than its real one. Someone told me that one day a magician recited an incantation and made an egg turn into a high speed. Another told me that a magician recited an incantation which made two stones fight like a pair of rams. These are all tricks a sorcerer uses in front of people in order to obtain their money or display his dexterity. Sometimes he includes this type of spell in other types, like in the black magic of separation, for example, a man would see his wife in an ugly image, and in the black magic of love, he would see the opposite. These types of black magic are different from charlatanism, which relies on rapid movement of hands. How to revoke it? This type of black magic is revoked with all the supplication which expel the jinn out from a place in general, such as announcing the azan loudly, reciting Ayatul Kursi, reciting supplication for expulsion of the jinn from a place. Supplication means reciting Quran, saying Bismillah for everything, providing a person in a state of always be in wudu. If you follow these measures and could not revoke the sorcerer tricks, then he is a magician who relies on rapid movement of hands and not a sorcerer. Example, the treatment of black magic for at-taqayyil, a sorcerer who made the mushaf copy of the Quran turn around. Means sometimes ago in a town, there was a magician who used to display his skillful trick in front of the people by making the Quran turn around. One day he tied the Quran with a string from chapter Yasin, chapter number 36, then tie a string to a key and suspended the Quran in the air. He recited incantation of the Quran and ordered it to turn right. The Quran turned right in a fast and amazing way. He then turned it to turn left and Quran would stop and turn left in a fast and amazing way. Without moving his hands, people saw him do it so many times until they were nearly impressed by his tricks. Especially his magic involved the Quran. What is commonly known among people is the fact that jinn cannot touch Quran. When I learned about the man's magic, a friend of mine and I went to see him. I was in my last year at high school. This author is writing about him. And I challenged him in the presence of people to do his tricks with the Quran. People were surprised to hear of such challenge because they had seen the magician do these tricks so many times before. As the magician tied the Quran with a string from chapter Yasin 36 to a key and held the key in the hand in front of the crowd, I instructed my friend to sit at one side of the crowd and to recite Ayatul Kursi repeatedly, while I sat at the other side and began to recite Ayatul Kursi silently. When the magician finished reciting his incantation, he ordered the Quran to turn right, but it did not move. He then recited another incantation and ordered it to turn left, but it did not move. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala humiliated him in front of the crowd, and the magician felt small in the eyes of his audience. Allah will support those who support him defending his religion. The fourth thing is black magic for al-junun, lunacy. Kharija ibn Salat reported that his paternal uncle went to Prophet ﷺ and declared his conversion to Islam. On his way back, his uncle passed away by a people who had fitted a lunatic in jail. They said, "We were told that your companion, the Prophet ﷺ, has brought good with him. Do you have anything with which to cure our lunatic?" So I recited Surah Al-Fatiha and he was cured. They gave me 100 sheep and then approached Prophet ﷺ to inform him of it. Everybody knows about this hadith, isn't it? "Did you say anything other than this?" I replied, "No." He said, "Take it for by my life, some would accept it in turn for a false ruqya, but you have done with the genuine one, right one." According to another narration, the man cured by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha for 3 times, day and night. Whenever he finished reciting it, he would gather his spittle and spit. Symptoms: severe absent-mindedness and forgetfulness, unclear speech, bulging eyes and deviation of sight, restlessness, inability to do a task regularly, disinterest in one's appearance. In severe cases, one can tell from a lunatic face that he does not know where he is going, and he would probably sleep in disused and abandoned places. So how is it done? The jinn, entrusted with the sihr, enters into the target person and settles in his brain. As instructed by the sorcerer, he then begins pressing on the brain cells for thought, memory, and behavior, or managing them in a way which only Allah knows. As a result, symptoms appear on the victim. Treatment: recite Ruqya mentioned in the second stage of the treatment. If the patient becomes epileptic, follow the same steps as mentioned. If he does not become epileptic, repeat same Ruqya 3 times or more. Then record the following chapters. You can listen on YouTube, or if you have Quran Explorer: Al-Baqarah, Suratul Hud, Al-Hijr, As-Safat, Qaf, Ar-Rahman, Al-Mulk, Al-Jinn, and Al-Zalzala, Humaza, Al-Kaf, and Al-Falaq, and An-Nas. It's not possible in a day, but make it a habit slowly, gradually. You can do it for a month. You have 1 month time. So what I repeated: Suratul Baqarah, Suratul Hud, Suratul Hijr, As-Safat, Qaf, Rahman, Mulk, Jinn, Ala, Zalzala, Al-Humaza, Al-Kaf, Al-Falaq, and Nas. Note that the patient may feel uncomfortable listening to these surahs and may become epileptic during such a period, and the jinn may speak as a result. The pain may increase for 15 days, then ease gradually, and completely subside by the end of the month. At this time, recite Ruqya only to check that patient has in fact been cured. The patient must not take tranquilizer during the course of treatment because they would affect him. You may use electric shock during the course of treatment since they would harm the jinn, speeding up the recovery process. The period of treatment can take less than a month but may take up 3 months or more. During the course of treatment, the patient must avoid committing a sin, major or minor, such as listening to music, smoking, neglecting salah on time, not wearing hijab for a woman. If the patient feels a stomachache, then it is evident that they have had the spell in their food or drink. In this case, recite entire verse of the Ruqya over some water and advise patient to drink it during the period of treatment in order to provoke the black magic to react inside their stomach or cause them to vomit out. Example of treatment. Case 1. A group of men came to me with a young man tied up in shackles. As soon as the young man saw me, he kicked with his foot and undid the shackles. But the men grounded him. I began reciting some verses of the Quran, and every time I did, he would spit on my face. I finally gave the man some verses of the Quran recorded on audio tapes and advised the man to make him listen to this for a period of 45 days. And then to console me after this period. After 45 days, the young man who was once a lunatic came to me in sound state of mind and apologized for what had happened, despite the fact that he was unaware of this incident. I recited Ruqya for second time, but there was no reaction on his part, which meant that he had recovered. He asked me if he owed a specific sadaqah for his treatment, so I advised him that he was not obliged. But I recommended that if he wanted to give sadaqah to poor among his fellow countrymen or fast to show gratefulness to Allah, then that would be a good act. He can fast or give sadaqah, that would be nice. Case 2. A young man came to me and explained that he was losing his mind and that he was not happy with his behavior. I recited Ruqya to find he appeared to have been suffering from spell of lunacy, which was probably done to him. He was about to get married. I recommended that he should listen to some verses of Quran which I recorded on audio tape for him and also gave him some water to wash with or drink. Tell him to visit me after a month. So after 20 days later, one of his relatives came and informed me that young man recovered and finally got married. Alhamdulillah. Black magic for al-Qumul, lethargy. Symptoms: love of seclusion, absolute introversion, constant silence, anti-sociability, absent-mindedness, frequent headaches. Quietness and constant lethargy. How this happen? But you don't think only this thing. You have to go to the doctor. Sometimes you may have some problem, physical sickness. How does this happen? A sorcerer would send a genie to the target person, instructing him to settle in his brain and make him introverted and lonely. The jinn would do the best to carry out the mission, and the symptoms of spell would appear according to the strength and the weakness of the genie interest with the task. Treatment: recite Ruqya, patients become epileptic, talk to genie, follow the steps. If it does not become epileptic, record the chapter of 3 audio tapes. Advise the patient to listen to one in the morning, one at Asr, one at bedtime for 45 days. The period may be extended to 60 days. What are the chapters? Surah Fatiha, Surah Baqarah, Ali Imran, Surah Yasin, Surah Safat, Surah Dukhan, Surah Zariyat, Suratul Hashr, Suratul Ma'arij, Suratul Ghashiyah, Suratul Zalzala, Suratul Qariya, Suratul Mawazatain. The patient, by the will of Allah, inshallah, will be cured. Advise patient to avoid taking tranquilizers. If the patients feel a stomachache, recite the verse of Ruqya over some water and advise them to drink it for period mention. If the patients feel a constant headache, recite the verses of Ruqya over some water and advise them to wash themselves with it every 3 days during the mentioned period on condition that the patient does not add fresh water to it, not heat it up. The washing must also take place in a clean place. So do not add on that whatever the concentrated water, drink it and using for washing, and again that water has to be thrown in the plants. Black magic for hawatif, experience bad dreams and hearing voices. And this is very common, especially for the children. They have so much bad dreams and hearing voices, even for the elderly people. Symptoms: the patient experiences nightmares. The patient sees in a dream as if someone were calling him. The patient hears voices talking to him when awake, but cannot see where these voices are coming from. The patient hears much whispering, al-waswasa. The patient is very suspicious of his or her friends and relatives. The patient dreams of seeing himself, herself falling from a high place. The patient dreams of seeing himself, herself being chased by animals. How is this achieved? The sorcerer instructs a genie to appear to a person, both in a dream and in a reality, in the form of savage beast, attacking him to call him when awake in the voice which he recognizes and which he does not, to cause him to suspect people that are close to him, and people who are not. Symptoms may vary according to the power and weakness of the spell. They may increase to the point of reaching lunacy and may also diminish to the point of being a mere whispering. Treatment: reciting ruqya for spell to patent. If the spell for the patient become epileptic, treat him in a way prescribed. If he does not become epileptic, advise him to perform ablution before going to bed, reciting Ayatul Kursi, joining both arms closer to the face, reciting Muwazzatain, spitting on the hands and rubbing the body 3 times before going to bed. What else? Reciting Suratul Safat in morning and Dukhan before going to bed. Reciting Suratul Baqarah every 3 days. I know you can't recite the whole surah in one day. You can make it in parts and recite at least in 3 days. If you can't recite it, you can listen to it. Okay, but you have to listen it very attentively and carefully. It's not like you're working in the kitchen or you're doing some household work. Not that way. You have to concentrate and listen. Reciting or listening to last verses of Suratul Baqarah, especially before going to bed. Saying supplication when going to bed. Bismillahi wa'adtu jambi Allahumma gfir li zambi wa khazi shaitani wa fukka rehani wa ja'alni fi nadiyatil a'la. In the name of Allah, I have laid down on my side. O Allah, forgive me my sin. Driven away my devil, free me from my responsibility and place me in the highest assembly of angels. Bismillah wa'adtu jambi Allahumma gfirli dhambi wa akhizi shaitani wa fukka rayhani wa ja'alni fi nadiyatil a'la. Listening to Fussilat, Suratul Fath, Suratul Jinn 3 times a day. These instructions should be followed period for at least for a month, after which the patient, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will be cured, inshallah. Black magic for marad, illness. Constant pain in one part of the body, epilepsy, paralysis in one area of the patient's body, total paralysis of the body, disability in one of the sense organs. Allah protect us all. Here, I would like to emphasize that some of these symptoms may be similar to those of a normal physical illness. In order to distinguish between the symptoms, the healer should recite ruqya over the patient. If the patient feels dizzy, becomes numb, has a headache, or if there is a change in the patient's body during the recitation process, then the healer should assume that these symptoms pertain to the use of black magic. But if the patient does not react to ruqya, the healer should advise the patient that they suffer from a physical illness and should consult a doctor. How is this achieved? It is common that the brain is the main regulator of the body, regularity. This means that every human organ has a control center in the brain from which it receives codes. For example, if you try to put your finger in a fire, the finger sends a fast code to the sense center in the brain and then receives order from this center, warning it to keep away from the source of danger. In response, the hand moves away from fire. This interaction takes place within the fraction of seconds. هذا خلق الله فأروني ماذا خلق الذين من دونه. This is Allah's creation. Now show me what those have created that are apart from it. Surah Al-Luqman, ayah number 11. Through this spell, a genie settles in a person's brain, in sensual center of hearing, sighting, feeling of the hand or the leg, directed by the sorcerer. As a result, the response of a limb may be one out of three conditions. The genie may, with Allah's ability, completely prevent signals from reaching a limb or organ. As a result, limb stops functioning. So the patient may become blind, dumb, deaf, or physical paralyzed. The genie may, with Allah's permission ability, sometimes prevent signals from reaching a limb or organ, or may sometimes let them reach it. As a result, the limb or organ sometimes function and sometimes does not. The genie may cause the brain to send fast successive signals without any reason. Consequently, the limb may become frigid, unable to move, even if it were not paralyzed. However, any harm a person sustains under the effect of spell depends on Allah's will. Bismillah, which should not surprise. وَمَا هُمْ بِالضَّارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ يَعْلَمُونَ. And they did not hurt any man thereby save by the leave of Allah. We learn in Surah Al-Baqarah number 102. Yet in the past many doctors would neither acknowledge or believe this fact. However, when they witnessed several cases, they had no choice but to believe and submit to Allah. And one day a doctor came to me and said, I have come to see you about an issue which has shocked me. What is it? I asked. He said, a man brought his paralyzed son to me for treatment. When I examined him, I found that he was suffering from a disease in his vertebrae, a disease which, according to doctors, is incurable, whether through surgery or otherwise. A few weeks later, the man came and I asked him about his paralyzed son. He said, Alhamdulillah, my son now can sit down and walk. I said, who has treated him? He replied, Wahid, the author of Arabic version, the one we are doing. This is the reason I have come to find out from you how you treated him. So this author, he treated and he is writing his experience. I said I recited some verses of the Quran over him, then recited Ruqya on Al-Habba Al-Sauda, means black seed oil, and advised him to rub it over the paralyzed areas of the body. Treatment. Recite Ruqya 3 times. If he becomes epileptic, follow the steps of treatment. What is it? If the patient does not become epileptic but feels slight changes, record the chapters on audio tapes, or they can listen to Al-Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, Dukan, Jinn, and other chapters of the Quran, Falaq and Nas. Recite the following Ruqya over black seed oil and advise him to rub it on his or her forehead and painful area in her body in the morning and evening. Surah Fatiha, Surah Falaq, and Surah Nas, and Surah Isra. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. We send down the Quran, that which is healing and a mercy for the believers. And also you can recite Bismillahi Arqika Wallahu Yashfika Min Kulli Da'in Yudika Wa Min Kulli Nafsin Aw Aini Hasidin Allahu Yashfika. And also Allahumma Rabba An-Nasi Azhabil Bil Ba'sa Washfi Anta Shafi La Shafi Illa Shifa'uka Shifa'un La Yuqadiru Saqama. These duas are there in the healings, duas for healing. Advise the patient to follow the instruction for 60 days. If they do not recover, recite Ruqya another time and advise them to follow instructions some same period, again 60, according to your judgment and the improvement of their health condition. Example of the treatment of black magic for al-marad, illness. The case of a girl who did not speak for a month. A girl was brought to me by her father and brother. She was speechless and could not even open her mouth to eat or drink. Her family would forcibly open her mouth and give her milk or juice. Her father and brother explained that she had been like that for 35 days. I recited Ruqya on her and then she spoke, and all praises is due to Allah. Alhamdulillah. A genie who grabbed a woman by her leg. A woman explained how she felt so much pain in her leg. I thought that she might have been suffering from rheumatism. However, I decided to recite a ruqya over her, and she had difficulty in walking. Hardly had she listened to Fatiha than she became epileptic, and a genie spoke through her. He informed me that he was grabbing her leg. I told him to leave for the sake of Allah's obedience. He get out and woman was able to walk normally. Subhanallah. So here we stop and we'll continue in the next part. So this was the part 6 and the part 5, chapter number 6, part 5, that is part E. And here I think in one more chapter, there's one more part for, we are doing chapter 6, how to treat black magic, and in that we are continuing with the part 6, that is part E. So we'll continue that inshallah. Rest we'll try to complete in the next class inshallah. Jazakallah khairan kaseera. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu